Hey there, and welcome. Have you ever just looked around at everything and wondered what it's really made of? And I mean, let's go deeper than atoms, deeper than quarks. We're talking about something way more fundamental. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and see the surprisingly simple foundation that the entire universe is built on. So, let's kick things off with a huge question. How is the entire universe written? I know, it sounds a little philosophical, right? But just think about it for a second. What if reality is basically a language, with its own alphabet, its own set of rules that can describe absolutely everything, from a tiny leaf falling from a tree all the way to a massive star exploding? Well, get this. The answer is kind of mind-blowing, but also incredibly simple. That whole cosmic language, it's written with an alphabet of just 7 letters. Yep, 7 fundamental quantities. That is it. Everything else you can possibly imagine is just a combination of those 7 things. Okay, so to really get what these 7 building blocks are, we've got to turn to the science that's all about figuring this stuff out. Yep, you guessed it. We need to talk about physics. All right, so physics. What is it, really? Well, at its heart, it's this huge quest we're on to analyze nature and figure out how the universe behaves. You could almost think of it as the official rulebook for reality. And listen, this isn't just some abstract theoretical stuff. This quest has literally changed our world. Your computer, the GPS on your phone, the car you drive, even your TV. It all exists because we started to understand these fundamental rules. Physics is the science that actually builds the world we live in. Okay, so if physics is the cookbook for the universe, what are the basic ingredients? Well, it's time to meet the stars of our show, the 7 fundamental quantities that make up, well, everything. That's right, 7. That's the magic number. It's not 100, it's not 1,000, it's just 7. 7 core ideas that can be used to describe every single physical thing happening in the entire universe. It's wild. And here they are, the Magnificent 7. You've got the ones we all know and love, right? Length, mass, and time, the big 3. But then you've also got electric current, temperature, the amount of a substance, and luminous intensity. And here's the really important part. These are called fundamental because they are totally independent of each other. You just can't describe mass using time or length in terms of temperature. They don't overlap. They are the absolute, unshakable bedrock of how we measure the physical world. All right, so we've got our 7 basic ingredients. Now for the fun part. What happens when we start mixing them together? Well, that's where we get to what physicists call derived quantities. These are basically the simple recipes of the universe. This is how everything gets built up. A derived quantity is really just a combination of those fundamental ones. It's super simple. To get something like area, you just multiply length by length. To figure out velocity, you divide length by time. Every other concept you can think of, density, momentum, you name it, is just a new recipe using those same 7 core ingredients. So here's the key difference, the main takeaway. Fundamental quantities, they can stand all on their own. They are the foundation. But derived quantities, nope, they can't. They have to be made from the basic units. Think about it. A concept like velocity is totally meaningless if you don't first have the fundamental ideas of length and time to build it from. But believe it or not, it gets even cooler, even more elegant than that. What if I told you there's an even simpler code hiding underneath all of this, under all the units and measurements? Well, let me introduce you to the language of dimensions. This, right here, is where we find the true alphabet of the universe. So, for just a second, forget about meters, kilograms, seconds, all of that. We can actually boil down almost the entirety of mechanics to just 3 simple symbols. First up, the letter M. This represents the fundamental dimension of mass. Next, we've got L, and that of course stands for the dimension of length. And finally, we have T for the dimension of time. M, L, and T. That's it. With just those 3 letters, we can describe and double-check a mind-boggling amount of physics. So, you might be wondering, how does this actually work in practice? Okay, let's take something like force. Step 1, you start with the formula you probably remember from school, force equals mass times acceleration. Easy enough. Step 2, we swap out the words for their dimensions. So mass becomes m. Acceleration is a little trickier. It's how fast your velocity changes, which dimensionally is length divided by time squared, or L over t squared. Now for step 3, we just put it all together and simplify. And voila, the dimensions of force are m, l, t to the minus 2. We've just translated a pretty complex idea into its most basic universal code. How cool is that? Okay, so why do we care? What's the point of this strange new language? Well, it's all about decoding our world and, crucially, making sure our understanding of it is consistent and correct. This is the big one. This whole process is called dimensional analysis, and it is the ultimate cheat sheet, the ultimate error check for all of science. Here's the deal. If you come up with a new equation and the dimensions on the left side of the equal sign don't perfectly match the dimensions on the right side, your equation is wrong, period. It's a fundamental, non-negotiable rule of the universe. And that simple little check is what helps engineers make sure that bridges don't collapse and satellites stay exactly where they're supposed to be. And this language works for everything. It's universal. Just look at this. Acceleration, momentum, density, pressure. It doesn't matter what the physical quantity is. Every single one has its own unique dimensional signature. It's like its own fingerprint, all written in that same simple language of M, L, and T. So when you boil it all down, this beautiful, chaotic, seemingly infinite universe we live in, it can all be described by a foundation of just 7 fundamental quantities. And hiding just beneath that is an even simpler code. It really is like a language. From just a few letters, M, L, and T, the entire story of the universe gets told. Isn't that just amazing?